good? All right. Boy, boy, boy. It's the Sabbath, y'all. It's the Sabbath. Y'all know what it is. Y'all know what the Sabbath is, right? Y'all know when it is. We gotta make sure we do a little bit better with getting things together and being prepared. Everything that you do, when you're talking about the Bible, when you're talking about this walk, when you're talking about the truth, whatever it is that you're talking about or believe in, your actions is what shows it. Y'all understand that? What I mean by that? So if you had a job and you was at the job and the boss told you to do something, depending on how you do it, that's how he's gonna take what you're doing. Like, okay, I'm not gonna take them that serious, or I'm gonna take them very serious, because what you're doing is shown. Just kind of like, remember we talked about the mark of the beast, and we said the mark was in your head or your forehead, right? Your hand or your forehead, right? And your forehead represents your decisions, your choices, your mindset, your belief, things like that, right? But your hand represents your actions. So whenever your actions don't line up with what you say, which, the Bible says that, it says, many shall draw near me with their mouth, and they do honor me with their lips, but their heart is far from me. He's looking at your heart, but your heart shows your actions, or your actions show your heart. So anything you're doing, if it's for the Most High, you want to put your all into it. And that's me. That's not just y'all or just people, the audience. That's just anybody in general, me, myself included. You're talking about the Most High. Hey, that means this ain't a regular thing. This is big business here. You know how Christ told them, I'm about my Father's business. Well, that's what he means. People take business serious. This is just a pointer for everyone, which I know some people know that. I'm sure y'all know that. But sometimes you have to be reminded. I remind myself of stuff sometimes. Like, man, I'm slacking. I need to step it up, or let me do this or do that to kind of wake myself up and show, not the world. I don't care what people say or what people think, but I have to do that to show the Most High, hey, I'm serious. Because everybody say they serious. He said, many are going to say, Lord, I prophesied in your name. I cast out devils. Man, I was teaching. I was doing all this stuff. And he going to say, I didn't know you. Because he tell you, look, if you know me, you got to be like this. And you got to put your heart into it. You got to, So that's just one of them things, man. When you talking about the Bible, we talking about the Most High, you got to give it your all. But enough of that. All praise to the Most High for another Sabbath. We are back in effect again. And that means we made it a whole nother week. Everybody didn't make it, You got people that die every day, right? Y'all aware of that? And a lot of times people, I think people kind of get so used to life that they take it for granted. They forget that, hey, this is a gift. You can't even wake up on your own. I don't care what science say, what the doctors say, because there's so many cases in which people have died in their sleep, or whatever, however you want to say it. And the doctor said, we don't know what happened to them. We can't figure it out. And it's because it was their time. God said, hey, it's time for you to check out. So with that being said, when you're talking about waking up in the morning, we're talking about going to bed at night, those are good times to pray and talk to the Most High. Plead your case while you want another day. It ain't promised. I know people think, well, I'm young and healthy. I'm a kid or a teenager, young adult, or whatever. It don't matter. When it's time to go, it's time to go. And all that's in the hands of the Lord. So every day is a day to be grateful. And this is why I say this is the day that what? The Lord has made, right? And he says, I'm going to be glad and rejoice in it. So when you're talking about rejoicing, that means you happy, Like I said, these are things that we all know, but sometimes people got to be reminded. Sometimes it's good to see someone else excitement, because sometimes your fire can kind of go out and someone else will light your fire and keep it going. My fire start going down, and your fire is fresh. You got a bunch of coals on your fire. You can take some of them coals and put on my fire and build mine back up. That's why it's a team effort. Team effort. So today we're getting into it. Oh yeah, like, share, subscribe, comment. If you do have questions or comments and you want them to be discreet, then you put them on the website at bottom. Put them at the web. Go to the website, and there should be like a chat bubble or something like that you can check that out. Check that out. So today I want to talk about some things. It's not really a category or a topic. It's more so like just some kind of different types of prophecies. That's what you got up there, prophecies? Okay. Now, they're random. It's not a point for these prophecies to all come together or anything like that. That's definitely not what it's for. These prophecies are just to show that, hey, the Bible is legit. And these prophecies are things that are undeniable. A lot of times it'd be stuff in prophecy in which some people might fight against, some people, things that took place already. And so, because things have taken place already, sometimes people kind of look at it like, well, we don't really know if that's real or not, and things like that. We want to deal with some things that we can see for ourselves. You cannot deny it. And the Bible was written before any of us were alive. So there's no way you can deny some of these. I'll say some, maybe some of them people still gonna fight. First, before we get into any scripture in particular, I just kind of want to mention, I'm not even going to go and use the things in Deuteronomy 28, because Deuteronomy 28 is a prophecy that is wore out amongst Israel. We all know it. We all teach it to people. And with that being said, Deuteronomy 28, it is definitely prophetic, and you can still see it today, but I kind of wanted to go in a different route. But yes, us coming over here on slave ships was prophesied in Deuteronomy 28 and 68. We can still see that today. You know what I mean? Also, we see that it prophesied about the conditions of our people, not just slavery or captivity, but it's very specific. So if you want to see some prophecy pertaining to the so-called black man or black family, you can definitely start at Deuteronomy 28 and 15 and just read that thing all the way through. And it's undeniable. You'll see that. But I wanted to mention that. And also, we talked about the days of Noah, right? And Sodom and Gomorrah. And that was prophesied towards the end, saying the end days would be like that. And we can see these days. You definitely see Sodom and Gomorrah. If you don't see nothing else, you're forced to see that. You got to see that on TV. You got to see it if you go to school. If you homeschool some kind of way, it's gonna pop up. Man, they don't discriminate by age. You could be 4 or 5 years old, and you better have parent control on your tablet, or you go see Sodom and Gomorrah being fulfilled today. So with that being said, that's just more stuff that you can add to the plate of prophecies when we're saying, not even a plate. This is going to be a smorgasbord, a whole buffet of prophecy, in which you can look and say, well, there's Deuteronomy 28 today. I just named 3, 4 of them, if anybody's following along, paying attention. And Noah's time, Sodom and Gomorrah's time. Let's go. We're gonna start Revelation 16 and 12 though, and I'm gonna read something real quick. I read Revelation 16 and 12 first, and this is one that everybody's heard of. But we're gonna look at some things today. All right, Revelation 16 and 12. So we're going to check on that. All right, you ready? I'm not. Okay. Yeah, that was crazy. Because I got some stuff pulled up, and I'm sitting here looking at the stuff that's pulled up. I got to read the scripture first. Yeah, that's what I just said I was going to do. All right, Deuteronomy 16 and 12. Here we go. No, Revelation 16 and 12. Okay, all right. I'm getting there. I'm getting there. I got too much stuff that I want to do at one time. All right, Revelations, chapter 16, verse 12. We good? All right, let's do it. All right. And the sixth angel poured out his vial upon the great river Euphrates. Everybody heard of the Euphrates River, right? Then it says, and the water thereof was dried up, that the way of the kings of the east might be prepared. Excuse me. Y'all ever heard about the Euphrates River drying up? Which one do you think happened first? This was written, or the Euphrates River started drying up? This was written. Okay, well, see what I mean? It's clear. You got so many people. Why do you follow the Bible, man? That's a book. They can act it out. They can do this. If it's happening, and it was written aforetime, I can't argue with it. This is telling you that it's going to be a major war that's going to take place. So those kings can get across. The river is going to dry up, right? Then he says, and I saw three unclean spirits like frogs coming out of the mouth of the dragon. Who's the dragon? That's okay. And out of the mouth of the beast. And out of the mouth of the false prophet. The false prophet is going to be the so-called Antichrist. So the Antichrist that we've been prophesied about, most people don't believe this book no more. They don't believe in no prophecies. But the Antichrist, also known as what? Anybody got another name for him? Huh? Yeah. Come on now. Y'all ain't got no other name for the Antichrist? Not the Pope. It could be, but I don't believe that. I don't believe it's going to be him. Could be, though. I wouldn't rule it out. The son of perdition. Y'all ever heard of the son of perdition? Son of perdition. Hey, he still got to use somebody, though. It is. Antichrist. Wouldn't that be Satan, too? But it's going to be a particular person that's got to go and play that role. So you got the son of perdition. You got the Antichrist. Y'all got another one. The man of sin. So all three of these are just different names prophesied about this religious figure in the end that's going to be ruling, right? And we're reading that this false prophet is going to be around at the time of the great Euphrates River drying up. So if the river is drying up now, that means he must be around, or at least sometime soon. I won't just say right now, but sometime soon at the very least, right? He said, I saw three unclean spirits like frogs coming out of the mouth of the dragon, and out of the mouth of the beast, and out of the mouth of the false prophet. What is a frog? What is a frog's weapon? Or what is he known for? His tongue, right? What does the Bible tell you about the tongue? It's an unruly evil. The tongue has to be tamed, right? What did it say about the false prophet, man of sin, son of perdition? It said he was going to speak great things against the Most High, right? That's words. So what I mean? So, and then it's deceptive because a frog, he don't just sit there with his tongue out. He just sit there and out of nowhere, boom, it happens. So that's how this thing is going to take place, right? It says, for they are the spirits of devils working miracles, which go forth unto the kings of the earth and the whole earth to gather them to the battle of the great day of the Almighty. So they're going to battle against, who do it sound like they're going to battle against? The Almighty, right? God. So if they are going to battle against God, and for them to get there, the way might be prepared, has to be prepared by the Euphrates River drying up. If the Euphrates River is drying up, what do y'all think we're close to? Not just war, but the return, because that's the day of the Lord. This is how close we are. This is why prophecy is important. Nobody believes it though. I'm going to read to you about, just a little bit, not too much, about the Euphrates River drying up. However, I'm not going to just go and read any particular news article. I'm reading it from a science, what is that? IFLscience.com. Basically, a scientific perspective of the news article. It's not just a news article, but it's going to be not from a biblical, necessarily biblical standpoint. Because anything that I read, if it's based off of somebody of any type of religious descent, they're gonna dismiss it. Oh, of course they feel that way. They believe in the Bible. So it says, just as the Bible warned, the Euphrates River is drying up. So it sounds like they might be dealing with the Bible, huh? But they mention the Bible, which means they acknowledge that it's in there. Then it says, however, unlike supernatural explanations, like the second coming of Jesus Christ, so they're saying they're not looking at it like the second coming of Jesus Christ or something supernatural, because it says unlike supernatural explanations. Then it gives you one. The second coming of Jesus Christ, it says there is a very real environmental phenomenon driving this problem. Chronic droughts and climate change. So they're saying this is not, it's happening, but it's not a supernatural thing or a spiritual thing, supernatural, spiritual, basically. It's not a spiritual thing the way they're saying it's going to be according to people of the Bible. This is just because of climate change and chronic droughts, right? So they acknowledge it's in the Bible, but they dismissed it. It's a supernatural event. They're using their science to explain why it's happening. The Bible didn't say that it wouldn't be because of a climate change. It didn't tell you what he was going to use. It just said he poured that vial into the great river, the Euphrates, right? So whatever that angel did, whether it was to cause droughts and climate change, or whether some kind of way he's down there invisibly scooping it out, whatever he's doing, the Bible didn't say how it happened. It just said that it would happen. These people cannot dismiss this because a big river is too big to ignore if it's drying up. You can't look at a river and say, we're going to cover that up. This river stretches between different countries. Everybody got to be in agreement for the cover up, number one. And then with the internet age, all it takes is for somebody with a phone. See what I mean? That's too easy. So it says the Euphrates River is found alongside the Tigris River, winding through present-day Turkey, Syria, and Iraq before emptying into the Persian Gulf. It's the largest river system in Western Asia, so it's pretty big. That's why I said you can't ignore this, with the basin that also spreads into Iran. The land around these two rivers was historically part of the Fertile Crescent that provided the ideal conditions for settled farming to develop, eventually giving rise to some of the world's first urban civilizations, such as Mesopotamia. So they know this is a big time thing. This is a big time river, but they also are not denying that it's drying up. So you can check off. Now I could have just read the whole article. I'm not here for that. But we could check off the Euphrates River drying up, because I could continue to find more articles and show you that there's certain points of the river that's almost completely bone dry. Then there's certain parts that still has a decent amount of water. It's just not the amount of water that it was, which still indicates that prophecy is taking place. Prophecies taking place. So we're going to move on to Matthew 24:1. We got one prophecy that's clear cut. You can't do anything about it. The Bible is 1-0. It wins so far. Euphrates River. Let's go to Matthew 1 and 2 now. Let's read Matthew 24, verses 1 and 2. All right. Matthew 24, verse 1. It says, and Jesus went out and departed from the temple, and his disciples came to him to show him the buildings of the temple. So they looking at the temple, right? The temple was like a huge thing for, the Israelites. Always has been, right? So they looking at the temple, discussing it. In verse 2, and Jesus said unto them, see ye not all these things? Verily I say unto you, there shall not be left here one stone upon another that shall not be thrown down. So he told them, hey, look, it's going to come a time, this thing's going to be torn down, and it's not going to be one stone left upon it. This was written in the times of Christ, right? This is a record of him saying these things. So let's go and see. Did this saying come true? Did this prophecy fulfill itself? I am reading to you from pbs.org about 70 AD. Why 70 AD? Because that's when the temple was destroyed. It says in 70 AD, the Romans destroyed the temple in Jerusalem and looted its sacred contents. With the revolt over for good, huge numbers of Jews left Judea to make a home elsewhere. So it was so bad in 70 AD that they left. They didn't just get conquered and stay in the land. They got ran out. You know why? Because when Jesus gave them this prophecy, he didn't just tell them, I just read one particular passage that he said this thing was going to be destroyed. This whole temple was going to be basically torn down to pieces. Now, I can read also where he says, when you see Jerusalem surrounded with armies, flee into the mountains, because this is the time for the land to be desolated, which means destruction. So this is why it says when the revolt, with this revolt, it was over for good, and huge numbers of Jews left Judea to make home elsewhere. The beginning of Vespasian's rule had given Romans a new feeling of optimism after the Civil War and the terror of Nero's reign. So they said, look, we taking things over, and we're going to start by taking y'all into a more harsh captivity. Or even, if we can't get y'all that way, what did they eventually do? They connected with the so-called Arabs and Hamites, and they bought us as slaves, which then they put us on what? Ships, right? And took us far from our border. We can read that in Joel. You'll be sold and removed far from your border. Like I said, it's more than I could put on here. I just, for the sake of time, I just picked a few just to kind of throw it out there. But if you was to go to Joel 3, he's telling you, matter of fact, I'm just going to read it. You ain't got to add this one. I'm going to just read it because it goes hand in hand. Because when we left out of Jerusalem, we went into different parts of Africa. And according to history, we were sold and taken on ships from the ports of West Africa because we had no land anymore. The temple's destroyed. So that's 2 checks for the Bible, or for Bible prophecy that proves the Bible. Really more checks than that if you go into the details of it, because he told them what would happen in Deuteronomy 28 when he said you go on ships by way to somewhere that you ain't never been before, basically. So now I'm reading Joel 3:1. He says, for behold, in those days and in that time, when I shall bring again the captivity of Judah and Jerusalem, I will also gather all nations. So this is a future prophecy, right? He says, and I will bring them down to the valley of Jehoshaphat and will plead with them there for my people and for my heritage Israel. Why did he got to plead for his people and his heritage? Because he's taking them back. Notice he ain't just taking the people back. What else it say he was taking back? It just said it. He said, I will plead with them there. So down in that valley of Jehoshaphat, he's going to plead with them for his people and for my heritage Israel. So it's not just the people he's taking back. He's taking back the heritage. What's a part of your heritage? Your customs, your ways of life, your traditions, the things that you did, right? So obviously it must be someone else that's out here perpetrating with our stuff. That's even more prophecy that I could go and get. But I'll be going in reverse if I do that. But that means somebody else is out here perpetrating, and he's saying this time's up. I got to have it back. Not just my people, but my heritage, whom they have scattered among the nations and parted my land. Y'all see that? So, and if you continue, I drop down to verse 6. It says, the children also of Judah and the children of Jerusalem have ye sold unto the Grecians, that ye might remove them far from their border. So this was written in Joel. This was going to happen. And then it actually happened the way Christ told it. And we still are living proof today, because are we back in the land? We are still in the same place. And even that's prophecy, that you would not return until I bring you back. We're going to continue though. That's 2 checks though. That's for sure 2 checks. Since we are talking about Israel, let's go ahead and go to Isaiah 3 and 12. Let's look at some more prophecy. Some of these are going to be, big, like what we just had. And then every now and then we got to throw some little jabs in there. We can't throw all power shots. We'll knock somebody out too quick. So I go a jab for you. Isaiah 3 and 12. Y'all ready? All right. It says, as for my people, talking about Israelites, children are their oppressors, and women rule over them. Now, when you look at the fake Jews today, the Jewish, and by the way, I'm not anti-Semitic. I am very in support of Shem. It says, as for my people, children are their oppressors, and women rule over them. You won't see that with the fake Jews today. You know who you see that with? The so-called African-American man, the so-called black man. He do anything and everything for the oppression of his children and for that woman. You know why? Because the government has systematically set this up. See, what happened is, in about somewhere around the 80s and 90s, the government came into the black woman and told her, hey, look, I know it's hard on y'all. Y'all barely making ends meet. But instead of arguing with this Negro every day, why don't you put him out? We'll promote interracial marriages. Maybe you can find you someone else. But if you put this man out of the house, that's going to leave a few things. That's going to leave people that don't want to deal with God, because there's no leader now to lead you to God in the house, because the man is supposed to be the head of the cornerstone, or the so-called leader of the house spiritually. And also, what days it said we'd be living in? The days of Noah, right? But also the days of Sodom and Gomorrah. Y'all know why y'all see Sodom and Gomorrah? Because they kicked the black man out of the house. So now the young black boy only got his mama as an example to look up to. So whatever mama do, he want to do. He's not raised the same way the Bible is saying it, because it's not for a woman to raise those children by herself. No way, especially a young man. So all these things are just examples, but we're just getting into this one. He said children, right? Let's deal with the children. He said, children are your oppressors. So now, when you have a child with this woman and she decides she don't want to be with you no more for whatever reason, maybe it's his fault, her fault, both faults, no fault, whatever. She has an incentive, because the government came in and told her, if you kick him out, I'll give you food stamps. I'll give you a welfare check. I'll even give you a free to little to nothing place to stay. but you gotta put him on child support. He can't stay here. We're gonna come by and do an inspection and make sure nobody else is in these houses that they call projects. But a project is something that you experiment with, right? And this was an experiment to see could they bring us down. This is very anti-Semitic, but nobody want to talk about that. So we'll keep it moving. So the woman has now an ultimatum for the man. If you don't do what I say, you can leave, because they made it very hard for the black man to support his family with the way that things were set up. So now, if he leaves, he's put on child support. And the child support is, I'm not even going to get off into that. If I say what I want to say about that system, I might get flagged. But it's definitely not of the Most High. I can't say that. It's definitely not of God. Am I saying that a man is supposed to go out here and have a child and not support it? I'm not saying that at all. Every man should be responsible for his child as much as he can be. But when she getting a check, free insurance, free place to stay, or $28 a month, something basic, when she's getting all these things from the system, now that is her husband, and that is the kid's daddy now, the government. What does government mean? To govern is to control, right? So y'all ever heard of something called governmental? What is mental? Your mind? So governmental could be to control your mind, right? That's what this was, mind control on the black woman who had been at the bottom and beat down so long that all they needed to do was start some women's rights, put Oprah Winfrey on TV a little bit more often. And next thing you know, the man is out of the picture. And now these women and children are his oppressor. But you cannot get mad at the woman or the child. You got to get mad at the man, because he did this because of sin. If I go one verse above, it says, woe unto the wicked, it shall be ill with him, for the reward of his hand shall be given him. And then he starts telling you about different things. Now, this is just one example. There's plenty of examples to show you, as the man, if you're not doing what you're supposed to be doing, these are the types of things that's going to be happening. These are a part of the curses, but let's not call them curses. People get all bent out of shape by the curse over the word curse. These are prophecies. You can't do nothing about that, right? So I think it's very clear that for the so-called black man, also known according to the Bible, the Israelite, the child or the children and the woman definitely rule over them. And then it says, oh, my people, they which lead thee cause thee to err and destroy the way of thy paths. Who is the one that leads the so-called black community? People want to say, well, you know, the government and politics. No. Most, and I'm just being honest, most of our people don't know enough about, most of the world don't know enough about politics to really know who is the best candidate for those that believe in the political games that are played. So where does that leave us? Making a choice for what we feel like is best for us, right? But what does this say? Those that lead you, right? Are those the ones that lead us? Who leads the black community? Who do they listen to the most? That's who lead them, right? They don't listen to the people that's telling the truth like what I'm telling. They don't listen to us the most. They don't listen to the so-called activists the most that tell them, y'all got to get out and come together and do this. We don't do that. We listen to the pastor the most. We listen to the church, the pastor, the deacon, the reverend, everybody that grandma and granddaddy told us was going to heaven. We listen to them. Those are the people who lead us and cause us to err and destroy our paths. Because those are the ones telling us, don't keep these laws and commandments no more. It's all about love. All you got to do is love somebody, but they're not explaining if you love the way the Bible says love, you got to keep the commandments. It's the church. The black church is more of an oppressor than the so-called white man that everybody loves to point fingers at. Do y'all know how much money one black church takes in, your average size black church, let's just say a 50 member church, one church. What my time looking like? Because I don't want to get too crazy, but I just got to do what I do.
Basically 41 minutes.
Huh?
Basically 41 minutes.
All right, that's good enough for me. So just peep this, y'all. One black church, let's just say it's got 50 people in it. Let's say the average amount of tithes is $100 per month. So a lot of people pay way more than that, but I'm just saying, when you're counting tithes and offering and people doing all types of donations, I'm just saying $100 a month for 50 people. What 50 times 10 is what? 500, right? So what would 50 times 100 be? 5,000, right? 5,000 a month times 12 months. Minimum of 60,000 a year, right? It's a pretty nice salary. If the pastor was doing this and wasn't doing this on a salary, let's say he just took 40,000. That's 20, and it took 10,000 to put it on the church. That's still $10,000 he could put back into the black community every year. It don't sound like a lot, but when you realize there's a church, a black church on every corner. I grew up in the country, and I'll just name, I won't name the town I grew up in, but in that particular town, off the back of my hand, I mean, I can name 5 churches for that one town. That's not in the county, one town. So 5 churches, all with how much left over every year? 10,000. Now you're talking about 50,000 for the black community. And that's not in the whole county. What if the whole county did it? Right now, the county we live in has, I guarantee you, it has at least 50 black churches. Probably more. I'm saying at least. That's just this county. So what I'm saying is, if they really cared about the people, you would see it through the actions. You would see not one homeless person. Women would not have to depend on the government when something happened, and you have the fatherless, the widow, the church. That's their job. They wouldn't have to worry about the government. The church will own a few acres of land and be growing food. And with this food we're growing, it's free for everybody that need it first. And then for those that don't need it, we still got it less than the grocery store because we want to build a black community. But the Bible, Deuteronomy 28 prophesies against all that, though. So just something, if you want to see that, you know where to go. We're going to keep going, though. I just wanted to show you how the people that lead us cause us to err, and that's the pastor, which is why the Most High said he got a problem with the shepherd. And I could do a whole lesson on that, how he got a problem with the shepherd, the teachers. Let's keep moving, though. That's what, 3 checks now? Let's get Isaiah 42 and 22. We'll pick up the pace now. Isaiah 42 and 22. All right. Isaiah chapter 42, verse 22, it says, but this is a people robbed and spoiled. What do y'all think we was robbed of? They just told you in the last chapter that we lost our what? Our heritage, our land. He said these people are robbed and spoiled. They are all of them snared in holes. What's a snare? That's a trap, right? So they're trapped in holes. They are hid in prison houses. Excuse me, y'all know what a prison house is? It's a jail. Who fill up the jails more than us? I don't. Go look it up. There is no, man, you could probably add all the other races up and it might be even. We fill up the prison houses. This is prophecy in Isaiah. He says they are for a prey and none delivered. Let you know, ain't nobody gonna help you. For a spoil and none saith restore. Nobody's gonna do anything for you in that situation. You know why? Because it's prophesied. It says, who among you will give ear to this? Who will hearken and hear for the time to come? Who gave Jacob for a spoil and Israel to the robbers? Do not the Lord, okay, hold, before we even go any further, Jacob to the spoil, that right there is us going into captivity and everyone taking advantage of us. That's the spoil. Because whenever you conquer someone, everything that you get out of that, that's the spoil. And then it says, and Israel to the robbers. Well, Israel was the land we was in, right? And still to this day, they got the land on it. So these things still hold true. It says, did not the Lord? So he asked who did it, and now he's answering it. So you can't be mad at nobody. It says, did not the Lord, he against whom we have sinned? For they would not walk in his ways, neither were they obedient unto his law. So he said, these things happening to y'all because y'all won't walk in the law. Then we got places all over the world now tomorrow that's going to be telling you don't have to walk in the law. He's telling you, we reading it. This is happening because you won't walk in the law. And somebody's going to get paid tomorrow to say, you ain't got to walk in the law. It's crazy, but it's prophecy. Because we see who fill up the prison houses. That's a check. We're looking pretty good. That's 4 checks right now. Let's get Isaiah. We're going to stay in Isaiah. Let's get 51 and 20. Isaiah 51 and 20. What's wrong? Oh, yeah. I'm missing something. What's going on? Y'all crazy. Isaiah 51 and 20. Whatever. Thy sons have fainted. They lie at the head of all the streets. So what's at the head of the street? That's the corner, right? So it's telling you, it's talking about Israel once again, and it's telling you if it's your sons, that's the youth, ain't it? They fainted. They lie at the head of all the streets as a wild bull in a net. If you put a bull, if you try to take a net and put a bull in, he gonna go crazy, right? And he's saying this is what y'all sons are doing all out here on the streets, in the corner, or on the street corner. Same thing. It says they doing this. Why? They are full of the fury of the Lord, the rebuke of thy God. So it's pretty clear here because of the Lord, they acting up in the streets, but it called them. It says they are as a wild bull in a net. What you use a net for? To do what? To trap, right? What do they call it in the streets? Oh, y'all don't know. That's good that y'all don't know. That's the trap. That's what it's, well, y'all know what the trap is. Y'all just, hey, look, just ignore this innocence. That's a beautiful thing. But that's what they call it. They call it the trap. They literally call it what you just called it. Without knowing anything about the Bible prophecy, they are calling it the trap. Yeah, we out here in the trap getting this money, right? That's what they say. So if the Bible said it first, how is it overlooked? Why is the Bible the book that nobody want to deal with because it's plagiarized? It's all these things, but we reading these prophecies that fit us today. Go and get me the books out of these other belief systems and read me the prophecies that are happening today. The only way you can do that, you're going to have to go and print one and update it. Let's get Jeremiah 17 and 4. Jeremiah chapter 17, verse 4. All right. It says, and thou, even thyself, shall discontinue from thine heritage that I gave thee. So this is Jeremiah, right? That means this was written before us, right? So this prophecy, right? Okay, I'm just making sure because they say the Bible is a book of fairy tales. It don't pertain to nothing. It's plagiarized. It's the white man's book. I've heard it all, but what they don't say is we can find ourselves here. Our identity is here. I'm going to let y'all find your identity after I read it. It says, and thou, even thyself shall discontinue from thine heritage that I gave thee. And I will cause thee to serve thine enemies in a land which thou knowest not. For ye have kindled a fire in mine anger, which shall burn forever. First, I'll ask the so-called Jewish, when did they serve their enemies in a land that they didn't know about? All those lands that they've been in there are lands they're from, or lands they've been heard about, right? So this wouldn't fit them. So they don't get a check. They get an X. They got to move on to the side. Now, he says you're going to be discontinued. When something is discontinued, it's cut off, right? So I'm going to cut you off from your heritage. We've been reading that though, huh? We've been discussing that. Now, I'm going to stop right there before we get into, because this should be two checks. The first check is who has been cut off from their heritage. Well, if we go to China, they know their heritage. I won't even say China, Japan, Korea, Asia. Let's name the continents. It's that broad. They still are well aware of their heritage. The Middle East, well aware of their heritage. They still gonna tell you and show you their heritage. Russia, yeah, they are aware of their heritage. Even the Africans, because we are not African. They say we African American. I don't know how we can be two places. One we never even been to. But for some reason, we go for that. But nevertheless, the real Africans, they know their culture. They still doing the same thing they've been doing. They doing all them dances. They putting bones in their face and wearing skull necklaces. They still got their same gods and practices. They doing all the stuff that they do. They got all these other nations have their own gods too. Don't get it twisted. Just because you looking at Christianity, don't mean that everybody that's serving Christianity is their origin. Those are people that converted from something, but they still know, well, our fathers dealt with the Greek gods, the Greek and Roman gods. Okay, so they got their own gods and heritage. Ham or the Africans, they got their own gods and heritage. The Asians still have parades and bring the dragon out. They still go and will tell you about Genghis Khan, all kind of stuff. They got their own heritage, right? When you come to America, you got the so-called white man and the so-called black man originally, and the so-called Indian. The Indians knew their heritage. Mexicans, they know their heritage. All you got to do is just look into this stuff. The so-called white man knows his heritage. He knows. He'll tell you about the Caucasus Mountains. Some of them will tell you about, oh yeah, well, we migrated from England or, from Europe or whatever. You ask that black man, who are you? African American. He gonna give you two places. But how did you get here? We got on some slave ships. But what was you doing before the slave ship? They're going to start looking around because they don't know. They got to go look in a book that somebody else wrote for them. This is world history, but we're going to put this part in there for y'all so y'all know what y'all was doing. Yeah, we was doing this. No, you won't. You got no proof of it. You got no record of it. You got someone else's record of you. Because prophecy has been fulfilled. Because it said you would be cut off from your heritage. So you don't know. You got to trust someone else. So how do we know we Israelites today? How do we know that the Bible is our culture and our book? Because eventually we're going to see another prophecy in which we'll be restored. But right now, we got one check for this, cut off from your heritage. You can't find nobody else that don't have their heritage. Then it says, I will cause you to serve your enemies in a land that you don't know. This only happened to our people. We were scattered into places we don't know nothing about and had to serve our enemy. And this is Deuteronomy 28. This is also Jeremiah, right? We can also get it in Isaiah. But for some reason, even though we can see it today we are still the servants. You still were born somewhere where they got a receipt for you or a birth certificate or whatever you want to call it, which is your stock number to let you know this is what we do for property. You are still in a place where you got to get permission to leave and go do something else because you are in captivity. That's two checks. There's two checks. So we got a lot of checks now. I can't even keep up with all these checks. Let's get Hosea 6:1. Hosea chapter 6, verse 1. This is pretty easy to see. Mm-hmm. The Bible done told us all these things will happen, and people look at it and Maybe they can't. Maybe they can't see it or don't know. I know everybody can read now. Mm-hmm. Hosea 6:1. Come and let us return unto the Lord, for he has torn and he will heal us. He has smitten, he will bind us up. So he done tore us up or cut us away. He done took our heritage. He done beat us down for our sins. But he say, let us return to him. I think Deuteronomy 30 says something about that too. Let's return to him. How do we return to him, y'all? We got to get back to his laws, statutes, and commandments. We got to get back to what the Bible says. Notice it didn't just magically, like what they teach you in church, say, he's just going to do all these things for you. It says, come and let us return unto the Lord, which is what we're doing in masses now. All praise to the Most High for it. But when did this happen? It says, after 2 days will he revive us. In the third day, he will raise us up and we shall live in his sight. So he says, man, 2 days have to be completed. And after those 2 days, once the third day starts, sometime or another during that, he's going to revive us. And we're going to live in his sight. So, how do we do this math? Because I know 2 24-hour periods can't be what it's talking about. That wouldn't even add up to nothing. But the Bible tells us in two places minimum, that 1 day with God is how many years for us? 1,000. 1 day with God, one of his days, takes 1,000 for us, right? So if he said it's going to be 2 days for us, how many years is that do we got to wait? 2,000. Ain't this so easy? So after 2,000 years, you're going to see a rise. You're going to see an awakening. So once we get close to that, because God always prepares things, you're going to start seeing a little something happening. But after those 2,000 years are up, you are going to see a great awakening and a great rise amongst those people. Well, when Christ died, since he died, we are in year 2023. Do I think that that's the real year we're in? That's a different discussion. But it's clearly been at least 2,000 years, right? So after and I might have said that wrong earlier. 1 day is 1,000 years, not days. I don't know if I said days. I feel like I did. So let me reiterate. 1 day with God is 1,000 years for us. So it's been 2,000 years, not days. Let me make sure that's clear. So we're in year 2023. 2,000 years have been fulfilled, which means 2 days are gone. He said after 2 days, he's going to revive us. Don't you see these people being revived? This is prophecy. But they're going to overlook it and they're going to make an excuse for it so that the blind stay blind and the deaf stay deaf and the dumb stay dumb. I ain't talking about talking. So the reason that this is happening is because Satan knows this is going on too. So he's already going to be in position to counteract what God do. And this is why the Most High told you in the scriptures, what did he say? He said, you got to be wise as a serpent, humble as a dove. But then he said, you got to study to show yourself approved so you can rightfully divide. The only way you can divide good from evil, right from wrong, fake from real, you got to understand first, they're going to be close together for you to divide them. So here's another check. After 2,000 years, all of a sudden, everybody's in the streets teaching with bullhorns. They're on the internet teaching. Everybody knows who the Israelites are, whether they want to believe it or not. They have at least heard it. They know not only who the Israelites are, but that God is still coming back. But people got to keep all statute commandments. We are getting all of this information, and this is reviving us. When you revive, that means you got that energy again. You got that spirit again. You're ready to go out and fight. And this is why he says in the third day, he will raise us up. It's all taking place, ladies and gentlemen, right in front of your very eyes. But we just overlook it for some reason. We close our eyes and turn our head. Let's continue. Let's get 1 Timothy 4 and 1. What my time?
An hour.
Okay. All right. Also, if you get a chance, read Ezekiel 37 about the valley of dry bones. That goes pretty well with this Hosea 6 that we were just reading. But for now, we're at 1 Timothy 4 and 1. I don't want all the prophecies to be the same type of stuff. This is why I'm mixing it up. We could do prophecies, a bunch of prophecies on the same thing, but then that would be redundant and people would be like, maybe y'all just got lucky. So we cover science in which the river is drying up. We covered history and war in which 70 AD people came and took over and tore down the temple. We cover oppression from the women and the children over the man, which is your social status and things like that. And same thing with us being thrown in prison houses. We covered just us in general for our youth, the black man being like a wild bull in the trap or net or whatever you want to call it. We covered our heritage being taken away and being given back to us and revived. We got a lot of different types of prophecies here going on. Now we got 1 Timothy 4 and 1. And we're going to get another one. It says, now the Spirit speaketh expressly that in the latter times some shall depart from the faith, giving heed to seducing spirits and doctrines of devils. So already anybody can see this is definitely happening. But let's look, it says in the latter times, it's very specific. So even if it happened before, it won't talking about then. The latter times, people was going to depart from the faith. And why were they going to do that? Because they're going to give heed. They're going to start listening and following seducing spirits. When you're seduced, that means you're drawn in. So they're going to be drawn in by another type of spirit, not the Holy Spirit. And it's going to turn them away from the faith into doctrines of devils. This is why you got everybody that want to do all this other stuff. Now they're going into Islam because they don't understand the Bible, or they got a bad representation of the Bible through church, which church don't never follow the Bible. The whole representation of church being there on the wrong day should let you know that. But you got these seducing spirits. Let's name some of them that people are following. People are following Islam. That is not the way according to the Bible. That is not for our people according to the Bible. They are following Buddhism. That's incorrect according to the Bible. But these are people who their families, go do the research, just start looking. Their families were families in the 60s, 70s, 80s, and even the 90s that grew up, even though they didn't have the understanding we have today, they still grew up understanding at least Jesus came and died for our sins. We believe in the Bible. Now they are leaving the Bible or leaving the faith. You got, once you get into Buddhism and start dealing with the East Indian stuff, you got to battle against yoga now. People want to know, well, why is yoga bad? Well, obviously, for you to ask, you haven't with the open mind went and studied and compared it to the Bible. You haven't. If you even got to ask that, you probably looked at a few things and said, but that's not in-depth study. He said you got to study till you are approved so that you can rightfully divide it. There's plenty of doctrines out here. You got these people that say the black woman is God. You got people that say you could be a good witch and do black girl magic. You got so many things out here that are taking people from the faith, and it's all happening now in the latter days or latter times, just like the Bible prophesied. But we're going to continue. Verse 2, it says, speaking lies and hypocrisy, which they do, because they make themselves a hypocrite when they lie on the Bible, because we go right behind them with the Bible and show, no, it wasn't the Bible. There wasn't a conflict in the Bible. There was a conflict of your understanding of the Bible. That's two different things. It says having their conscience seared with a hot iron. Y'all know what that means? When you take a hot iron and sear something or seal it, basically it's not coming out. It's closed up. Their mind is closed. They don't care. They sold on it. Now let's look at some of these things that they do. It says forbidden to marry. Do y'all know that marriage rates are at an all-time low, lower than they've ever been? I wonder, is that prophecy or is that coincidence? Well, let's see if we can find another one, because I mean, now even the church don't even really try to promote marriage. Even the Pope is in a whole religion in which he can't get married. It's all happening now, though. It says, and commanding to abstain from meats, which God has created to be received with thanksgiving of them which believe and know the truth. So people who believe and know means knowledge. People who know what the truth is about these meats. There are certain meats that they can and can't eat. That's Leviticus 11. No, Leviticus 7. No. One of them. Which one is it? You know? It's 11. Okay, I had it right. It's been a while since I had to read that. But you see what I mean? It says God has created to be received with thanksgiving of them which believe and know the truth. So people who know the truth have a select food list that they can eat from. And somebody in the latter times is going to come in and try to get them to give up those meats. Get them to go against what God has said about these meats. Oh, well, you know, it's poisonous. It's got this in it. It's bad for you. It's everything that God said it wasn't. So who you following? But regardless of how you feel about it, whether you eat meats or not, that's your business. Whether you eat clean or unclean meats or not, that's your business. That's between you and the Lord. I'm just showing you that in the same time frame, the latter days, in which people was not really going to be trying to be getting married like that, they're forbidden to marry. It's the same time frame in which people are abstaining from meats. Now you got vegan, which is what? Plant-based or something like that? If something is plant-based, if that's the base, why do it say plant-based? What's the rest of it? If the base is plant, what's the rest of it? How can you take that green leaf on that tree and get a powdery substance? You got to do something to it, don't you? But that's not the part that's promoted. We don't know what the health risks are with that. We have no idea what's taking place. And whatever they tell you it is, we can't go and see it for ourselves. We're forced to believe. But guess what? God already told you what meat you can eat, but you let somebody talk you out of that. Then you got vegetarian. Still something that's abstaining from meats that God said you can eat. That's just another check. We can move on. That's just another check. I'm going to get Zephaniah. Get down. Zephaniah 2:1. I'm going to end it here. All right, Zephaniah chapter 2. We're going to start at the top. This is a prophecy to come, future prophecy. It says, gather yourselves together, yea, gather together, O nation not desired. So there is a nation out here he's calling together, right? How can we identify this nation based on what we just read? So this is a nation of people who nobody desires. They must be treated really bad, huh? They must be getting taken advantage of, huh? They must be the ones that the police doing that brutality on, huh? Ever, let me ask y'all something. I'm not saying that it don't happen. Just comparing the rates. Y'all ever seen a Chinese guy in the streets over here where we are getting shot down by the police? You don't see that? That's strange. That y'all don't find that strange? There's a lot of Chinese people here, right? I won't say Chinese. Let's make it a little broader. What about Asian? No? They always look like us? the people that we see under persecution, the people that the police are always coming down on, why do they all look the same? Could that be the nation that's not desired? Why is it that everywhere we go and look in the world, the people that look like us are at the bottom being taken advantage of? That's the nation not desired. If it's not entertainment or money, it's nothing that we're good for the people. But slavery. But he told these people the nation is not desired to gather themselves together, right? He says, before the decree bring forth, before the day passes the chaff, before the fierce anger of the Lord come upon you. So look, this anger of the Lord is on the way. Get yourself together, gather together, because this anger is going to come upon you if you don't. It says, before the day of the Lord's anger come upon you, seek ye the Lord, all ye meek of the earth, which have wrought his judgment. Seek righteousness, seek meekness. It may be ye shall be hid in the day of the Lord's anger. So you want to be out of the way. You want to be hid and overlooked. You want to be passed over when the anger of the Lord take place. Let's see, how do we identify this? Because he didn't really say when. He did give us a clue, because he said the anger of the Lord, or the day of the Lord, which is upon his return, or at least around that time, close to that time, right? So verse 4 says, for Gaza shall be forsaken, and Ashkelon a desolation. They shall drive out Ashdod at noonday, and Ekron shall be rooted up. Wait. Because we're reading about this and hearing about this on the news, right? Some of the same stuff. I'm not saying all this has taken place, but these same people we're reading about, and it seems that this is setting up for this to happen. But this was written way back in the day, right? This would be another prophecy. Let's continue. Woe unto the inhabitants of the sea coast, the nation of the Cherethites. The word of the Lord is against you, O Canaan, the land of the Philistines. I will even destroy thee, that there shall be no inhabitant. And the sea coast shall be dwellings and cottages for shepherds, and folds for flocks. And the coast shall be for the remnant of the house of Judah. So he must be bringing them back to the coast, huh? He must be bringing them back to the land. So around the time of the day of the Lord, it's the same time around at the time he's coming back, because it said, not him coming back. The same time of the day of the Lord is the same time, or around the same time, that he's bringing Israel back to the land. This is why he said, and the coast shall be for the remnant of the house of Judah. They shall feed thereupon, in the houses of Ashkelon shall they lie down in the evening. For the Lord their God shall visit them and turn away their captivity. So God is going to turn our captivity. He's going to bring us back. And when this happens, this will be another check. But it looks like this might be one of the next checks to be looking out for, because we see Gaza looking like it's not too far from being forsaken. It's not too far from Ashkelon being a desolation. Not saying that it's happening right now, but we see the drama stirring up with their name in it. And we've seen other things that have pointed us towards the end times. So this is just one more prophecy that you can check off once it happened, but you can at least now see that you can start reading things and looking for it, so you'll know when to grab that pencil and get ready to check it off. So with that being said, that's the lesson. Prophecies. The Bible is full of them, full of prophecies that's already happened, prophecies that are to come, and prophecies that's happening now. For anybody that's interested, get on Google and go and research how in the land of Israel it's the desert is starting to blossom and bud. And it sounds to me that it's preparing itself for what the Lord said it would be when he brings them back. All this is prophecy. The Bible says that it will be prepared and will be brought to it. So these are the reasons why we got to study so we can understand. Stop letting people tell you the Bible is a book that's basically no good, a book that is not for us, a book of stuff that people have wrote and made stuff up as allegories. It's not real. Is it real that it's drying up the river? That's real. It's not allegory. It's real. But nevertheless, I don't say this necessarily for people to be able to argue. This is just a little bit of defense. And every now and then I might start, throwing some more together. But yeah, this is more so that you can kind of defend your book to a degree, but at the same time for yourself so that you can see where you stand. You can see that it's real for yourself. If you ever get weary or if you ever get to the point where your faith is getting a little wobbly, and even for those strong in the faith, it's a reason for you to go and study to see what is to come. So once again, that's the lesson. I hope that someone got uh, something out of it. But either way, I appreciate your time. Peace and blessings. Y'all know what to do. If you got questions or comments, I'm going.